Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Look at you, brand new digs, great looking backdrop. Where are you today?
Well, we started a new office for Napoleon Hill Institute and Dave Meltzer Studios. So we have an amazing suite of studios here at the Irvine Towers and a whole mastermind floor. So we'll be facilitating a mastermind tomorrow with the incredible Tim Story. I have guests coming with Luke Freeman, John Sally, of course, John Barrett, Bedros Koulian. And we are also going to have a VIP Thanksgiving dinner afterwards. So mastermind and dinner here in Orange County to complement our SoFi Stadium masterminds and dinners. We are getting booked solid.
I love it.
What were you doing today? You're filming Go Fund Yourself?
Yeah, yesterday, we had 9 episodes of Go Fund Yourself. Rory Kataya and Jason Waller kept me there far beyond my bedtime unwinding routine. But we had Marshall Falk, CJ Anderson, a variety of unbelievable companies. The one that I was most excited about was called High and Hard. And it was a 2-ounce shot that had THC in it. And it not only got you super high, but it prolonged your sexual stamina and made you hard like a Pringles can with an apple on top. And so they didn't have the founder pitch either. They hired an ex-adult entertainer to pitch it. And so we found that quite entertaining, and the business itself seemed to have some legs.
3. Yeah.
I loved Rory's vest. Yesterday.
Yeah, you and Rory are hard to keep up with. That man's vest costs more than my car. And, it's amazing what money will buy when you hang out with Rory Kataya, whether it's his cars, his apparel, his jewelry, whatever it may be. And we're going to have to really save up if we're going to travel with Rory to Egypt, because I think just alone in the food bill, we may have to double book ourselves solid just to pay for the food.
There you go. Well, I'm excited for it.
I'm excited because we're coming off the heels of a mastermind and dinner in New York City. The feedback has been off the charts. And previous to this weekend, Lacey and I recorded a podcast for our Black Diamond Club members on collaboration. So I thought maybe you could give us some insights. You are hosting a mastermind tomorrow. You have Go Fund Yourself. And there's always this long list of people that you are collaborating with. But one thing that Lacey and I find, especially with our clients, is that they say it's so hard to find people to collaborate with. Not everybody is a good collaborator. So I'd love to get some of your insights from you and Lacey on how we can identify, first of all, great collaborative partners, and secondly, how we can structure great collaborative opportunities so that everybody wins.
It's interesting because it starts with values, because beyond collaboration, you need coordinated movement. And with coordinated movement, you need to have alignment in the values. And sooner or later, when you're collaborating with someone, if you have a value discrepancy, it's not going to have coordination of the movement, of behaviors that are necessary to progress in a divine direction, equal consciousness that's necessary to speak. And I find a lot of times in my coaching and advising that people ignore the value side and they just think the collaboration, the scheduling of, hey, we should do this together is all that you really need, an intention to collaborate. No, you actually need values that will withstand the coordinated movement, because within the context of coordinated movement or conscious behavior is the changes that occur. So if Lacey and I we create an agreement, implied, written, or oral, to coordinate with one another, to collaborate with one another. Immediately when we come to a plan, time, emotion, and value changes. And the only thing that sticks us together is a commitment to the intention of coordinating the movement despite the changes in the time, value, or emotion. And so if our values are not aligned, what's going to happen is that we're not going to be able to stay committed to the coordinated movement. And therefore, we're going to create more emotional expense, more separation, accelerate in the wrong direction, and have all of these interferences between us and where we want to be together as collaborators.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when your values aren't aligned, what I also notice is that oftentimes the work balance is misaligned as well. Because if I don't value you or work ethic or the idea of collaboration in the same way that you do, then oftentimes I'm not putting in the same time, energy, and effort as the other individual, right? And so we see so many times the most amazing collaborative ideas fall apart because of this mismatch of values and contribution, right? Collaboration can only go as far as the contribution goes, and it can't just be one-sided. That's the nature of collaboration. And so a lot of times people get into these relationships and they're like, well, I felt like I was doing all the work. I was more excited about it than the other person. You know, I was out there talking about it more than the other individual. And unfortunately, that puts a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth for collaboration. But it was not because of the idea. It was because of the mismatch of values.
And just to mention real quick in the contribution side, it also is the open-mindedness. A lot of times people have an intention to contribute, but they don't ask or they don't elevate. And so the parties have no idea. I know Shawn and I do a lot of collaborating together. And there's been a lot of times where I needed something from Shawn, but until I asked him for it, he had no clue, or vice versa. Right. And a lot of times people ask me for things in that contribution side that's so easy, right? And yet it's like, hey, I forgot, you know, and then you go to the blame, shame, and justification of, oh, they didn't contribute. Well, did you ask them to contribute? Right. And so I find that the ability to be confident, not only in the values, but why I collaborate really well with you and Shawn is like, I feel very comfortable that we're just people that want to help each other and know people that can help each other. And the rooms that we curate together, whether it's masterminds or dinners, they're also a bunch of people. I thought the New York trip was, to me, a great success, and the feedback was so successful because the room was curated so well. They were amazing people. Whether you had Mike Tannenbaum, who, you know, former GM of the Jets, or the chief heart officer of Vayner, Claude Silver, or Cleono O'Hara, the founder of the Napoleon Hill Institute. These are substantial individuals that can really help people, but why they really can help people is they're willing to help. And then you have Mark Murphy, you, Shawn, myself, who we all know. I mean, if you want to put an icon of helping one another, Mark Murphy should be the statue in front of IU of selfless giving. And, you know, I'm, you know, like Gary Vee, always in a competition with myself of how much I can give selflessly. And then you meet someone like Mark Murphy and you're like, whoa, like so many people that I introduce him to, they just come back and it's not, hey, can you call Mark Murphy again to, you know, to introduce or help me? It's holy shit, Mark Murphy changed my life. Thank you so much for that introduction. And you two are the same way.
I want to go back to this values thing. That was very interesting to me. And frankly,
smile first. Yeah, see,
and I've never thought of it in that way. And honestly, this is something that a lot of people ask Lacey and I about. I want to go a little more tactical. How can I, if someone's like, hey, you got to meet David Meltzer, he's a great guy. You guys, and people say this, right? You guys should do stuff together. Well, how do I begin to understand your values? I've learned open-mindedness, open-ended questions, but how can I get to your values quickly?
I have certain questions, you know, like anything else. I practice things, and this is how I hire and interview people. So if, for example, I know my own values. So I'm looking for grateful people, forgiving people, accountable people, and inspired people. And so because I know I need those 4 values to align, I'm asking questions that will show me your perspective. Take a situation. Is that person looking for the light, the love, and the lessons in it? And if they are, then I say, okay, number 1 value met. Then I can ask them questions about forgiving themselves or forgiving others. Like, dude, I got so fucked over one time. And the greatest lesson that I had was that I had to forgive myself for not trusting and vetting the person correctly. Have you ever had any situations like that? And explore how they interpret that value. Accountability is an easy one to ask about, right? When that happened to you, who was to blame? Or that guy, I bet that's the reason. Well, it's that guy's fault. And if a guy says no, 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 then you're like, oh, this is someone that's aligned with me in accountability. And then inspiration or desire is important to me because it's a common denominator of success, notating that it's lack of commitment that causes people to fail. And I want someone to somehow illustrate to me they have a desire that they must be what they can be. You can ask them about sports and their participation, one of their favorite activities in college. There's a variety of things that you can say, or failing business and what happened afterwards. These are all ways to align your values.
Sports and activities in college. I feel like Dave would never have hired me if he asked me those questions. I'm just being real out here. But I think what's really
that's why you don't work with Dave.
But let's say you weren't the person that you are today, and you're asking about sports or activities in college. You could say, "Oh, I was a complete disaster." So now you're showing me forgiveness and humility and gratitude, and saying, "But today, I would have graduated with straight A's, or I would have been the ASB president, or if I had the desire I had today, I would have been that person."
I love it. I did still graduate with honors, but still got in trouble. But
I would hire you then. I would hire
you simultaneously. It's called street smarts. It's a good thing to learn. But I want to
go. That's perfect.
It's right. I want to go back to what I think is really important about what you just said is that you know your values. And I think a lot of times we understand what we value, but we don't take the time to actually sit down and fully settle into what are my highest values and be able to articulate those. Because you can't ask the appropriate questions to uncover those things if you haven't done the work on truly understanding what you value most and what's important to you in those types of relationships. So a lot of times that's where we get that mismatch. We hire the wrong person. We get into a relationship with the wrong person, a partnership with the wrong person, not because we didn't necessarily see if their values matched ours, but because we didn't work on our own values first, right?
Well, today's been super insightful for me because, and I agree with that, because most people, when you say values, we use like corporate values.
Right.
I mean, you come from the corporate world, so we say things like trust, integrity.
Yeah.
Right. But in a meeting, in an initial contact, of course, we put on
I'm
our
gonna showcase trust and integrity.
We're never like, I'm just meeting you for the first time.
I'm a liar.
I'm gonna scam you
Right.
and I'm gonna blatantly lie to you. Like, hey, where were you last night? Oh, I was in Egypt yesterday. Like, you're like, no, we were together yesterday. No, that wasn't me. We don't do that. We don't lie blatantly to people on a first encounter, but we need to have deeper values like what you just went through. How can we begin to uncover what we actually value? How can we discover? Are there any exercises that we can go through?
Yeah, this really hits home for me because you both are friends with my wife. In fact, you're my friend probably because you're friends with my wife. No, but my wife told me when she was going to leave me, what is that Julie said to me? She said, take stock in who you were and what you want to become. Mm-hmm. And that led me in a journey to understand who I was were my values. And, how did I live my life? Well, I was a person that didn't have very much, but was grateful. I was always forgiving of other people. I was accountable and I lost that accountability and it's evolved. And I lived my life in a lot of inspired direction. And each of those needed marketable improvements. But it was funny because I probably hadn't thought about the values since my mom used to hammer them home to me when I was a young boy, right? And tell me, we remember the integrity of your home. You are accountable for your home. You need to be forgiving of your brothers and sister. You need to be grateful. This whole, living below the line, she would say, no blame, shame, justification. You go back up to your room until you can tell me 10 things you're grateful for. We have an attitude of gratitude in this house. I hadn't really thought about that for so long. And yet when I started to think about it, I realized, gosh, I am so far not aligned with the values that I grew up with. And I need to take stock in those. I think the same holds true as timing and risk tolerance when we're talking about collaboration, that a lot of times people don't know their timing and risk tolerance. And once again, it's difficult to have coordinated movement if you don't have the same timing and risk tolerance of the person that you're collaborating with.
I want to go to another thing. I get this question a lot. In fact, I got it in New York. I get it all the time. People always ask me, how do you know Dave? How do you become Dave's friend? And I'm like, well, I got put on the minor leagues of these shows. I was on like the LinkedIn way back when, the LinkedIn office hours, not like the TV show office hours, just got put on the minor league one. And I felt like an energetic connection, reached out afterwards. I was like, hey, would love to have you speak at our event. My pitch was your daughters go to Indiana. Our event is in the summer, right before they go back to school. And our daughters go to Indiana. Perfect connection. And we should do more stuff together. We should do a mastermind. And you were like, yeah, we should do a mastermind on a private island. Now, for me, a lot of that is feel. It's very just energetic feel. But you and Lacey have the gift of being able to explain that. So I would love to understand. So there is like the value exercise, but there's also this thing of like the collaboration, the relationship, the energy feels right. Talk to me about that. Is that just totally pie in the sky hokey stuff, or is there something to that?
There's everything to that. And, I'm collaborating today with one of my other partners, and, we want to make sure the feel is right. And there's an intuition that is relative to intellect, right? So intellect can help us to determine a feeling because we can put it into the man-made construct. So vetting someone, I get a feeling that something's off. So then I go and I'm more interested than interesting. I start doing research. I Google the person, and then I start asking other people, hey, did this person really do that? Or I start asking uncomfortable questions of the person just to verify my feeling about something. So I may even say, hey, there's something off. Are you okay? And if the person says, to be honest, when I got out of the car, I was in a huge fight with my wife. Oh, that explains my feeling of the energy being off. It's not that you're a scumbag. It's that you're a normal husband who just got into an argument with his wife in the car. And so through that intuition is a catalyst for me that says, hey, let's pay more attention. It's like I joke around, but if I'm at a craps table and I get an intuitive thought that it's hard 8, which is 2 4s, it doesn't mean I go ahead and bet the 2 4s, because time is linear and it's man-made. It's not in the intuitive. It's not on the timeless frequency that intuition is, but I'm elevating my awareness to the hard 8. I'm starting to watch for the hard 8. I'm looking. That's what I start doing with my intuition, is that this is going to be important, whether it's now or in the future. Start paying attention to signs, clues, patterns to make better choices. So I think it's all about the feeling, but if you don't take action after you get the feeling, then all it is a feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would agree. To me, it's more of it's a heightened awareness. It's like a little universal nudge, like, hey, check this out, pay attention to that. And I think for a lot of people, there is a difference between like what your intuition is telling you and what your logical mind is trying to convince you of. And you have to get really good at deciphering which is which, right? Because sometimes, you feel like, oh, I have a feeling about this, but it also is just a conscious thought that you're trying to convince yourself is a feeling, and vice versa, right? So it's
So
really
fun.
an interesting thing, and you have to get good at knowing what your intuitive voice sounds like versus your logical, conscious, subconscious mind, because they can play tricks on you. And there's been more times than I would like to admit that I didn't recognize that it was my intuitive voice, and I ignored it because I thought it was a wrong conscious thought. And so I would say that we all have the ability to tap into those.
Yeah, I want to just decipher that because it's interesting. Reaction to fear is an emotion,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anger, worry, anxiety, frustrate. But a lot of times we don't decipher between a reaction to fear, an emotion, the energy and motion from a thought,
Mm-hmm.
to intuition, which is the lack of the emotion, and it's just information from a higher source.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does take practice to decipher the difference between intuition and the reaction to fear, which is emotion, the energy and motion that disguises itself as
Mm-hmm.
intuition. And it's really an impulse. So having singularity of focus in control of our impulses will help to decipher intuition versus emotional response to fear.
Love it.
Well, one of the things that I super admire about you as well is that one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is I am very on the intuition scale. And when I meet somebody and I'm like, not good, I'm pretty closed off to that. I've learned, at least I'm closed off to the relationship, but I'm not closed minded. I've learned from you, like, well, look, maybe we can explore other areas. Is basically for me, I'm like, hey, we're going to go all in with this person or not.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this range of like, time can tell, we don't have to push all of our chips in. I'm very fortunate that with you, we did office hours and I was like, yeah, I love this guy. And that worked out well for us. But other people, I'm like, yeah, I don't feel it. And then I just have a hard time like trying to discover those points of intersection, those points of collaboration. But by traveling around with you and doing things with you, I've learned, because I've watched you and I'm like, wait a minute, what,
you don't have to be in love with
yeah,
everybody
what's going on?
to work with them or to learn from them.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, don't you see this person for who they are? And then I've learned like, yeah, but here's the areas that we can work in. Help us to understand then when intuition kind of is steering us in a direction, we don't have to be absolute black and white about it. And we can actually find the love, the light in the lessons, even in that particular moment, by being in relationship. That relationship's not just an absolute on or off.
Yeah, it's so funny because we distinguish the dependent and independent variables of these relationships. And just because there's a certain area that we have either intuition or just logic that says, hey, this isn't going to work out according to the circumstances of the day or the opportunity, option, or touch of favor that exists today. And look, take politics, for example. So many people closed off other people because they voted for one president or the other president. That was like the dumbest thing to me, right? It was like, I cannot be Shawn's friend because he voted for Steve. I'm like, what the fuck does Steve have to do with me being Shawn's friend? Like,
Right.
Shawn and I have the same values. We like golf. I love his smile. He doesn't use it a lot, but there when it shows, I love the smile more than I care about him voting for Steve. This is a silly example, but I see people do it all the time. It's like, hey, I don't agree with this guy. I'm not going to do business. I have a friend, Big Al, and I'm going to call out Big Al because my friend Shawn knows Big Al. And Big Al, I will not play poker with Big Al because he's a cheater. I will not play golf with Big Al because he's a cheater. But I trust Big Al with my life, meaning if I'm stuck in Mexico at 2 a.m, Big Al is going to be the guy that's going to drive down. Big Al says stupid shit. Big Al does stupid shit. But I'm Big Al's friend in certain circumstances because I value the fact that Big Al he got my back and he'll drive down to Mexico at 2 a.m. and pick me up if I was in trouble. So we can pick and choose the interaction in the event or circumstance that we want to participate with someone that takes away the negative side. Right. We don't want to put someone in a position where we're being harmed, or the intuition says you can't trust them in business, but you could trust them with your life.
Great example. Anything to add there?
No, but I think it's what you said is, relationships and friendships and collaborations are on a spectrum. And so oftentimes we think it has to be this way or it has to be this way. And the reality of it is there is so many variables and components that can be looked at, collaborated on, connected around, or, even created a friendship around, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I think so many times we close the door of opportunity with this belief that it has to be all or nothing, right? Like Dave is saying, you can love somebody for some things and not agree with them on others. That's how relationships are, whether they're business relationships or personal relationships. We don't always agree, but I love him for a million other things, right? And so to try to create and compartmentalize business to be opposite of that and have it be black and white, all or nothing, I think it closes the door of opportunity.
And one of the things I've discussed in taught with Shawn is I use buckets. So it's beyond his values, right? I'll tell him, look, there's some people that I just know I can't count on. So, little of the time. And then there's people I know I can count on some of the time. And then there's people like Shawn that I count on most of the time. Mm-hmm. There's no one in my life, including my mom or Julie. And you guys know that I'm a 56-year-old mama's boy and nobody's more simped than me over his wife. But I know I can only rely on them most of the time. I can't rely on them all the time because circumstances, we're human beings and they can't rely on me all the time. But there's certain people I want to be there and say, oh, Shawn and Lacey can rely on Dave most of the time. Mm-hmm. And I can rely on Shawn and Lacey most of the time. Therefore, when I need something, I'm going to call Shawn and Lacey because I know, and then instead of blaming Steve again, because I know he doesn't come through hardly ever, but I need him. So instead of calling Shawn and Lacey, I call Steve, and then I'm disappointed, even though I knew the whole time that Steve's one of those people that barely ever come through.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Awesome stuff. Where can people find you this week?
You got to have a plane ticket. No, I'm kidding. Irvine tomorrow. Please can join us for a mastermind and dinner with amazing people. I'm going to be big football weekend. I got the Eagles suite and the Sunday night game, Eagles Rams, and then Chargers Raven on Monday night. And so we have a lot of special friends joining us at Rams in our suite, and then Chargers in our suite. Turkey, the Monday to Wednesday, 3 hours in Turkey. And then I'll be in San Diego Thursday, Friday. And then I'm super excited. We're off to Washington, D.C. for Aspire VIP dinner. Then I'm keynoting the Carnegie Institute, their annual meeting in San Antonio, flying back to speak with the Air Force One again in D.C. Then I meet Shawn and Lacey in London, which Lacey didn't know about, or Shawn did, I forget. Then we're going to Egypt. So come and see the Pharaoh, King Tut, and Shawn and Lacey, Roy Kataya, Jamie, and Julie. And we'll be home by the mid-December. I'm just telling my friends and everyone, I'm publicly committing to this. I am not doing anything extra in Egypt. I will do what my non-negotiable commitments are, but no extra interviews, no extra speeches, no meetups, no holding courts. I probably won't even do get booked solid unless we get bored and want to do it there, but no extra. I'm going to spend time with my best friends and my wife in Egypt, and we're going to go look for aliens together.
Yes, I love it. It's going to be a blast.
When you keep saying Turkey, what is that? You mean the country or the bird?
I'm doing Istanbul before I'm leaving Monday at 6 p.m., speaking 10 to 1 on Wednesday, and then flying back on Wednesday night.
Woo!
Well, there you go. The people of Turkey are so very fortunate to be getting that turkey in that country.
I wish I had time to get my hair done. I'll get some dreadlocks.
There you go.
Yeah, don't cut it until we come back from Egypt. Just let it go. Let it go. All right, everybody, get your free book. Scan that QR code. Reach out to David at dmeltzer.com. Connect with him. If you're a turkey and you want to fly like turkeys, well, then you can be with David in Turkey. And we forgot to mention Craig the Eagle. Thanks for coming out to the mastermind and the VIP dinner as well. Valuable addition to have him, Craig Siegel. Mm-hmm. All right, everybody, you heard it. Dave's shutting it down, but not until he does all of these things first. So catch us next Tuesday if he's still working right here on Get Book Solid. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to